All right, Maimah, I am thrilled to have you on as a guest today. This is fun because one, you and I talk on a pretty regular basis these days since I'm on the lovely board of Tiger Lily. We'll talk more about who Tiger
Yeah.
Lily is. But I went back and listened to a podcast that you and I did several years ago. It was not the Reaching Higher podcast. It was the Real Chemistry podcast. And what was very cool about it, so 2021, is it was during the pandemic. And some of the things that you had shared that I feel like I know you pretty well, I had forgotten about. Crazy things like you being hit by lightning, not good, but you survived it, which is good. Being held at gunpoint, also not good, but you survived it, so that's good. Multiple wars. So, what has kept you going through all of this mayhem over the course of your amazing life?
What has kept me going is knowing a sense of purpose. I feel like so when I was younger, I had a dream when I was really probably like 8 years old. In the dream, I was talking to God, and it was like he was telling me that I was going to be doing. He was saying to me that I wouldn't have an easy life, but I would have extraordinary things happen. And to know that people who are like me, because I'm very sensitive, and I always felt like I saw and I felt more than people. Like no one discussed feelings back in the day, and no one discussed people being clairaudient and like feeling and seeing and hearing things. And I'm kind of like I am very intuitive, and I could feel people's energy, and I could just feel a lot of things. And when you're growing up in a war-torn country, and people think that you're a child and things are happening around you, they think you don't know, but I could feel and sense certain things. So I felt very not normal, feeling that I was living in Liberia in a country people didn't discuss this stuff at all anywhere. But then back then in that kind of culture, so I just had this dream that like I just always felt very different. And so when I had the dream, I thought, oh, I can talk to God, and He tells me this is normal. Then okay, I don't feel so abnormal anymore, and that if God is saying that this is He's going to be with me and guide me through these feelings, and then I'll be fine. And so I just kind of always trusted in the fact that I had this sense of resolve since I was a child, that I was different, that my life would be things that would be extraordinary. And then I was always, people don't think I'm very shy. So I was like, well, how am I going to do these things being that I'm an introvert, but I have a huge heart. I love. I love people. I just love, it's just my core value. And so I knew that if I could have love, which I was of love, and God was guiding me, that I would manifest the things that I would, at some whatever the things would be, would come to me by walking beside God or the universe or whatever you call the one being. Um, and so, the things that happened to me, like being held at gunpoint, being hit by lightning, and then surviving 3 wars. When those things happened, I just had a sense of like, without knowing how to say the words, sense of resolve that of those things would come something bigger than just the thing. That they were kind of molding me in a way. And so I was always kind of like, well, what's next, And just so that's kind of how I got here in terms of my energy, right? The rest, is history, but yeah.
Well, we'll talk more about that history. And I will say, there are a lot of people where if they talked about having a conversation with God and how that would lead them down the path, I might be a little skeptical. But what I will tell my listeners is you will completely understand the full picture as you learn more about Maimah. And having had the pleasure of knowing you for, I think, 5 or 6 years now, I can tell you she has done extraordinary things. She is an extraordinary individual, and we'll talk more about what you've put into the world over the next 30 ish minutes. One of the things that I'd also forgotten about all the details of this. I remembered sort of the loose story, but in our first interview, you talked about your mom, who is a nurse, I believe, and your mom from early days. I think you were 12 or 13, started to stress the importance of giving yourself breast exams in the shower. And you're kind of like, I'm not exactly sure what I'm supposed to be looking for, but this came to be a very important tool that she handed to you because at age 32, you were in the shower, you were doing your self examination, and you found a lump. And you did exactly what your mom would tell you to do, and you went to the doctor. And I will let you tell the rest of the story, but this unfortunately is a little bit of, I think, how a lot of women, and particularly Black women, are treated in terms of not being taken seriously. And there is a very powerful rule, which is people know their bodies better than anybody knows their bodies. And when you know something is wrong, particularly when Maimah Karmo knows something's wrong, it's wrong. So tell us what happened after finding that lump, going to the doctor, getting the exam, I think with the oncologist, and sort of what the next 6 months to a year look like after that, Mima.
Yeah, so my mother, I look back, sometimes in life there are things that happen where you think it's an ordinary thing and or an annoying thing. And but what I tell people all the time is my mother's like that moment of hers telling me to sit down and like come in the room. Imagine you're, 13 years old, your mom's like in her room and you walk by the room door and she's like, oh, come in. I'm going to come in your room, close the door. And you're like, oh, your first thing is, what did I do? And you didn't do anything. Just sit down, let's talk. And, I want you to just I want to talk to you about breast and take off your shirt. I want to show you what your body's changing. I want to show you that, what a breast exam looks like. I'm thinking like, oh my God, like this is worse than being in trouble. Like, I don't want anybody's like, first of all, again, you have them. It's embarrassing. Like, because your body just starts to sprout these things. You're like, what is that? It's like an alien. You don't want to you have them. You don't want to have them. You didn't expect them at that time. And then your mom can see them. It means everybody else can see them, including the boys in school. And, like it's embarrassing. Then you have to show them to her and you have to touch them. Like, oh my God. But she just talked to me about like your body will change over time, like it is now. And, there are things that might pop up that may be not normal, like a lump or a rash or some kind of discharge. And I'm thinking like, what's she talking about? But she's like, just do the exam with me. And so we talked about it. And then I put my shirt down. She left, and I was mortified. And but I kind of forgot about I didn't forget. I kind of just put it behind out of my mind, but I didn't forget to do my breast exams every month. And so like she made it like a habit, like like how parents teach you about hygiene, brushing your teeth, taking a shower, you know, just certain things you do, putting on deodorant, like you just do certain things. So she made it kind of a thing that was part of my health hygiene, not like a weird thing to do. So I just did it. And so when I moved to America, we came here. Well, I moved here. The war happened and we escaped here. But when that happened, I came to this country and I, over time, at some point, began to like learn about the race for the cures and things like that. But people had like shower tags and things like that. But I didn't understand that because it was for me, it was part of my, you shower, fresh, while you shower and you touch your checking. And yeah, the shower, you look and then you feel, then brush teeth, wash, all things. So like, it would never occur to me that it might be about cancer. She said abnormal. And I like that she told me that to look for something that was not normal. She didn't scare me at all.
Yep.
Because some people think about when I hear people talking about girls who may be at risk and talking about cancer, they think, well, I don't want to scare my daughter. My mom she never scared me. She talked to me about knowing my body and being empowered. And so fast forward, um 13, almost what 20 years later, I'm taking a shower and I remember at the time I'm dating myself, but they had the tracks. Remember they have you order from the BMG Music and they have like the
Yep.
CDs, and I ordered the Diana Ross CDs set, and I love Sinatra. And I played Diana Ross Ain't No Man High Enough. I played the whole soundtrack in the morning and I played Sinatra at nighttime. But I was playing, remember that song was on and I was singing and dancing in the shower. And I was just showering and I felt something in my breast and my body just like I just tensed up because it had the lump that I felt hadn't been there before. And there are times in life when something happens where you immediately know that that's not normal. And so I turned the shower off and I looked at in the mirror and I couldn't see anything, but there was something that was physically there. And so I called my mom. She's like, I've talked to you about this. I went and saw my OBGYN, who was, frankly, she was open. She said, what do you want for us to do? And I said, I want to get a mammogram. She said, well, it's going to be hard because, all the guidelines are for women who are 40 and over, most likely like in their 50s. Um, so the insurance may not cover it, but if you want to do it, I will order you a script. So she did write that, and I went to get the mammogram, and the radiologist was like joking with me and like kind of making fun of me. She's like, why are you here? You're too young and you can't have cancer. And I'm like, but there's something is in there. And anyway, so I felt dismissed by the radiologist because she kind of kept joking about it, and I was terrified. And when the results came back and they called me, they said it's not cancer, you're fine. And I said, well, I don't think that this is normal to have this lump here. So whatever it is was not there before, and it's grown really quickly. And so I asked to see a breast surgeon, and she again blew me off. And I kept calling doctors and trying to figure out what was going on. Was dismissed for quite a long time. They kept telling me I couldn't have cancer. until finally I asked for a biopsy, which against the doctor's recommendations, I did get one. And the doctor called the next day on February 28th, 2006, about 4:44 p.m. and said that I had breast cancer. I had breast cancer, and then I found out it was stage 2, triple negative breast cancer. Triple negative breast cancer is the kind that people who most people might know that this is or may not know is the most aggressive kind of breast cancer, most often found in women who are Black and younger, um, and or Ashkenazi Jewish. And at the time, there was no treatment targeting triple negative breast cancer in any setting. So although I had a mom who taught me my body at a young age, although I followed those instructions and did my exams regularly, although I found the love myself, although I had a good doctor, although I had insurance, um, because of the guidelines that people who don't look like me had put in place, because the insurance companies follow those guidelines, because doctors follow the guidelines and the insurance company's recommendation, I was dismissed for almost a year, and I could have died. You know, the thing one of the reasons why I live my life so passionately, Aaron, and I do what I do is that, like, people who have untargeted cancers, like I had, do not survive this long. I'll be 20 years cancer free next year.
So
And so
those listening
finding it,
in, I'm clapping right here in front of
oh,
this because that's amazing that we would be far worse off without you. So I'm so glad that you are 20 years cancer free.
thank you so much. And you know, I didn't really, I don't know, it's just, I just like the enormity of it has hit me this year, being 20 years cancer free. I have so many friends who have had targeted treatments, who have metastasized, or who may have not known. Had a mom who was like my mother, who taught them what to look for, and or if you look for it, and they were dismissed to find another doctor and to be persistent, you know, and they didn't make it. I have friends who have had, you know, different kinds of subtypes of cancer who have that had multiple treatments available and haven't made it. So I feel like my life, I shouldn't say is, I don't know how to say it because I don't think I'm better than anybody else in terms of life. But I do think that when you have breath and your heart's beating and you have health, that's a privilege. And the privilege I've been granted makes me responsible in a way, many ways, to pay it forward to others. And that's why I do what I do every day. And so I was so scared because I found this diagnosis. I started treatment. They're like, whatever we have, we'll give it to you. And then just go live your life and then we'll see. And I'm like, what does that mean? What it didn't tell me is it didn't treat my anxiety. It didn't treat my fear. It didn't treat the fact that my whole life has changed, and I didn't know how to live in a body that had betrayed me, and that I'd done all the right things for, I assumed. And there was nobody who was my age, stage, subtype I knew. Because I could point to that said, you say, oh, I'm 20 years out, I'm 10 years out, I have what you have. And then I just was like so terrified. And so, you know, people talk about cancer. I mean, people are more transparent about it now, but back in the
Hmm.
day, quote unquote, dating myself, people weren't. You just saw kids with cancer, or you saw adults. You didn't see people that looked like people who were like young women who were healthy. So in a sense, people were kind of naive to the fact that it can touch anyone's life, right? And I had the idea that if I ate right, exercise, and was a good person, I wouldn't get cancer, and it happened. Doesn't care what if you're nice or
No,
not, or where you live.
doesn't discriminate, unfortunately.
Doesn't discriminate. And so I remember being like losing my hair and eyelashes, eyebrows, and looking at my scars in the mirror one day and thinking like, this is like what is happening to me? Because I'm very strong-minded and I'm very determined. And I was determined that I was gonna like. I remember having pre-chemo, and before you have chemo, they give you a pre-chemo class and tell you what to expect. And I thought, I won't lose my hair. I won't be that sick. I'm gonna just you know put my mind to it and be positive and think and get through this and breathe, meditate, and I'll be. And I think chemo hit me so hard, and I literally was on my knees in the bathroom crying, and I was like, God, this is not. I can't do this. I cannot do this. And went to bed that night. I was so angry and scared, and I was like, just tell me what to do with this situation. I don't know what to do. I can't ask why me. I can't say you should save me because I want to be here for a long time, but there are kids who die in childbirth, or there's things happen to people who don't deserve it. So I just want to ask you that if I do get through this, how can I serve people who are going through something like this? But also, how can I give them hope and make them empowered to realize that the next moment's not promised. One minute I was on on the computer working and happy and planning my dinner with friends on the weekend. The next minute I'm looking at, you know, cancer, right? So people live their lives without knowing what could happen the next moment. So like in a way, the cancer awakened me to the fact that there's others who are going through this I could serve and help. But also, how can I inspire people to realize that there's this gift that we have called life that's so precious and so beautiful and so finite? And how do you allow the cancer diagnosis or a challenge to make that, to push that into a catalyst for something that could be beautiful, even during an active breast cancer? Hence, tiger lily, the flower, which is a perennial, and the flower, when it's fall, the petals fall off. When it's wintertime, they are dormant. And when it's spring, they blossom and grow, and summertime, they bloom again. So I began to think about it like, okay, maybe this diagnosis is me kind of dying to my old self and old perceptions and old beliefs, and being dormant as God does whatever He's going to do with me to fix me into who I'm meant to be. And then when I begin to reawaken, whether it's spiritually or physically, whatever he or she desires, I will grow and blossom into something that's going to plant seeds of hope and love and a future for other people.
Well,
And
and you have done just
that's
that.
what
And so
the
that's a
goal
great,
was.
great segue to the next question, which is
Yeah.
Tiger Lily Foundation. And so you did find the Tiger Lily Foundation. And let's talk a little bit about what Tiger Lily does. And then I want to get into a little bit of the mission and vision and how that's evolved over the last 20 years since you founded the organization.
Tiger Lily does a lot of things. I mean, I was laughing with a friend of mine the other day. I was saying, I remember that when I first bought the URL, I didn't know that nonprofits had to use .org, so I bought like a tigerlily.cc. And I remember I got a friend of mine to build the website for me, and then I called my mom and dad. And I was like, "Hey, I need a board. Can you guys just be on my board?" And of course, you had to fire them because they didn't do anything at some point. But like, I didn't know what I was doing. I just realized that I had to talk about I was going through, because if I was going through this alone, somebody else might be going through this alone as well. So if I could just help one person, then I could make a difference, right? And then very soon after, one of my mom's, one of my uncles called my mom and said, "Hey, Maimah, I heard she began a nonprofit. Can she come to my church?" I'm like, I don't do speaking engagements. I don't do that. And I was like, I was scared shitless. I'm like, oh, hell no. But I went there and when it was snowing, I was like, it's snowing. It's really bad weather. Let's just cancel. He's like, nope, the church is ready for you to come and speak to them. And I spoke and got a standing ovation. I'm like, okay, this is so interesting. Can I go home and hide now? Um, and then people began to reach out to me and say my cousin had breast cancer. Has it. She's, 30 something. And my sister has a lump in her breast, and what should she do? And then I realized, oh, this is what I asked God to do, to help people who are like me, right? Then I began to think about who else could I help? Or maybe go to my college where I used to go to school, George Mason. And so I kind of planned like, okay, if I can just reach people at college age, like my mom did, or young adults in high school. Um, and the mission really was to educate women who were at risk, who were younger, and who were younger and at risk, who were younger, to advocate for them and with them, and to empower them to use their voices and their bodies, and to help them get support during and after breast cancer. That was the mission. At the time, Aaron, there were maybe like one other group doing this work in adult cancer work, breast cancer work rather. But they weren't focused on women who were really truly like underrepresented, and no one discussed triple negative breast cancer at all. So also people discuss cancer as this, it was like cancer, and it's one thing, cancer is horrible, but when it's in your body, you can't escape your body, right? So I really wanted people who had cancer, who were younger, to really think about it like, you can have this disease, but you can have hope, and you can be empowered, you can be stronger and fearless and do all the things and be fearless in face of fear. And so it kind of was about that kind of messaging, but also about having a seat at the table. Because I remember asking a doctor at a conference one time, you gave me this treatment, but it may not have a cancer subtype. And I have side effects. Like I have neuropathy, and I have heart issues, and I have all these other problems. And he's like, my job's to treat the cancer, not to treat your body, treat your side effects after cancer. Once you're alive, that's my job. And I said to him, yeah, but I'm extremely anxious. My heart is always racing. My body just does weird things. And he was very cool about it. I'm treating the cancer, not you. So he was treating my body, but not as a person, like a thing, right? And I thought that's not how cancer care should be. Um, you must treat the entire person, in some way. And look at me as a human being that's getting this treatment, but how can I live my life with a quality of life that's okay, that's worth living after cancer? So it kind of began to catalyze around holistic, heart-centeredness, the whole person, and navigating survivorship even during and after the disease, and the family and caregivers. And from there, it just kind of grew into what it is today.
Well, it's an amazing journey. And I did want to ask you, you've written a number of books, but I also want to be sensitive to time. So what I will do is I will put a link to some of the books that you've written. I do want to talk a little bit about this show that you were on back in 2008. This woman, Oprah
Oh,
Winfrey, that's who it was. And I actually watched the clip the other day, but I did want to
really?
ask you what it was like
Oh,
being on the show and, you know, talking with this person that's one of the best known people, I think, in the world right now.
it. Like I said to you when I first started the podcast, we began talking. I remember when God told me. Remember, I said God and I talked when I was a child. He told me that I go through adversity.
Yep.
Um, However, there were extraordinary things ahead of me if I followed the things that He told me to do, he or she. And I remember when I got on Oprah, I was like, I got diagnosed in '06, finished treatment at the end of that year. So I was like maybe a year and a half out of treatment. Like, how does a person who's not in anybody's eyesight at the time, a nobody, immigrant girl who doesn't have a big following or social media, whatever, or a big network and a huge board and millions of dollars, no PR team, how does she get on Oprah? I remember a certain foundation leader was on there as well. And she literally asked me in the green room, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "God brought me here." And she's looked at me like, "What?" But I said, "Yeah." I said, God brought me here because when they called me, reached out to me, I thought it was a joke. I love Oprah. So I thought my friends were playing a prank on me. And so I kept getting these emails and calls, and I'd be like, "This is not Oprah, whatever." Like, hang up the phone, delete the email. Then I got another email, then I was like, "Let me just look at my delete basket and see what," I got a couple of those emails. And I looked again, and it was like Harpo Productions. I'm like, "Oh shit," or Harpo something. And I'm like, "Oh God." So I called. I was like, "You guys called me a couple of times, and then you emailed." They're like, "We've been trying to reach you. Oprah wants you on the show." And I'm like, and they're like, we almost gave up on. And I'm like, "You want me? Like, there's women across the country, many women defined to be on the show. Like, why do you want me? Seriously?" And they said she wants you. And so I had to get my friends and I had planned this like girls retreat that weekend. I'm like, I can't go. But I'm sitting. I got on the show. I got to the got there. But my mom was there. My friend came with me, and I was sitting there in the back in the green room, and then Nancy Breaker goes on the show, and then Christina Applegate goes on, and then I'm sitting there, and the show is going on, and I'm just like, did they forget I'm back here? And at some point, they came out and got me, and I began to walk towards the audience, and Oprah passed a chair next to her, and I was like, oh my God, and I go and sit next to her, and she's like, I said, "What am I doing here?" She's like, "You have a story to tell, and I want you to tell that story, and then I want you to, when you leave here, write a book." And it was the most amazing experience. She was extraordinary, and I left there and wrote a book. I became a bestseller, and I've written other books now. But having her believe in me, first having her see me and believe in me was extraordinary. And also, like, I really believe in God's guidance, because the steps I took were guiding me towards her and her towards me. Out of millions of women all over the world, she could have picked to be on that show with Christina and Nancy. She picked me to tell my story, and that moment catapulted me to a different level of existence, and it changed my life.
Well, again, grateful for you, grateful for Oprah. We actually had another guest, Dr. Judith Joseph, who had been on Oprah as well. So that's two of you who have been touched by her greatness. I want to talk a little bit about this year was a tough year, probably for a lot of different organizations and a lot of different people, a lot of tribalism. We won't get into the politics. But the good news is Tiger Lily not only has survived, but I would say even thrived in the midst of all this turbulence. And one of the things I want to lean into a little bit is this thing that's pretty cool. This is semi late breaking news, I think, over the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Um, the Tiger Lily Foundation found out recently they get a grant from the Melinda Gates Foundation You were one of, I don't know if it was 1,000 or 10,000 or whatever it was, but let's talk about how you turn lemons into lemonade and what this, latest grant means to you.
Uh, I am still digesting and kind of like I'm just still digesting, and I don't really. I think you and I talked last week, and I was like, "You're like, do you know what this means?" And I was like, I just can't really like because
It's
this year
kind of a big deal, P.S.
it's yes, that's what you said, yeah. This year was really tough. We saw COVID happened. Well, before that, like I began this work like literally in my mom's bedroom in my old house where I grew up and didn't have money, and I worked full time and built this, and then people didn't support young immigrant women-led nonprofits for a long. I mean, I didn't get the support they had. There people were like, we have big organizations that have been around for a long time, and I knew what I was doing was different, but people didn't really get that for a long time, and so we didn't get a lot of funding. And no one tells you how to get the money, right? People kind of hold their networks close to the chest, and so it was self-funded. We had galas, or we had little mini fundraisers, cupcake fundraisers. We went door to door. We had a 5K, and it was just like that for a long time, and then it kind of got a bit more, but it was not what it could be because I didn't have the money to do all the things I knew that I needed to do. And then COVID happened and people realized the impact, things I've been saying for 15, years, like women who are younger, underrepresented, who are vulnerable, have the most disparities and were not seen and heard. And then people were like, oh, who are you? You're the new kid on the block. No, assholes. I've been here for like 15 years. Like, and the money came in and I was, getting more support and getting and growing. But it was a sense of like people were giving money in a sense. I felt it was performative. They were giving money because it was like the hot thing to do. They're like, oh, Black people are in now, so we're going to give you money. And I'm like thinking the money will help me get what I need to get done, but it has to be money that's sustainable over the long term, right? And then what I assumed was true this year happened with the new administration, and there's a list that came out of banned words like Black, woman, female, diversity, equity, inclusion, vulnerable barriers, and all the things that I am were banned words. And so a lot of our funders who were parading me around during that time, the past previous 4 years, and saying they supported us and were allies, were kind of like, we can't really fund yet. We're figuring things out. We'll let you know. And so I was really, I mean, I know that my board was really scared, and I had to sit with myself because my human self felt scared. But then I went back to my quiet space thinking about the girl that talked to God when she was, like 8 years old. And I was like, God, you told me to do this thing and I did it. I don't know what's happening right now. And this is bigger than me. I don't know how to fix this. And I was so scared. And then I remember like when I kind of sat with God, I remember like feeling in my soul, like the way that God talks to me is not like a word. It's more like about embodying what he's saying or she. And I felt like someone was smiling at me and saying, you don't have to fix it. I gave this to you. And you said, you did what I told you to do with it. I will fix this. Just do what I say. And so when I built Type It Lily, I built it because the community needed people who looked like me to feel educated and empowered and to use that power and to feel like they were seen and heard and had a voice. No one saw me for a long time. No one heard me for many years. These women I've been educating as angel advocates, we had trained, probably over 1,000 women who have become angel advocates over the past 6, 7 years, who we had all over the communities of all over the country. And because we had been helping women who were younger and vulnerable and who were at risk and giving them hope, they were out there doing the work in the community, sharing their voices, using their stories to create change. So although we didn't have the money to do the things I had been doing the past 5 years and before, they were out there doing the work. And the community that we had been created to support they had felt that empowerment and were out there doing all the things. And so when the grant came about, we had applied for the grant and we were waiting, and they vet you. The Gates Foundation vets you for a long time, right? For almost a year. And they saw what we're doing. We're helping women who are underserved to have a voice and to be empowered and become advocates for themselves and to force multiply. And after over a year of vetting, probably maybe a little under a year actually, they had gotten people from 160 countries applied and over 6,000 I think 6,000 organizations, between 4 and 6,000, I believe. And they picked only out of 4,000 plus organizations, they picked 80 plus organizations to get this funding, between $1 million to $5 million. and we were amongst that number. And so when I got the email, I think called you guys. I was like, "Is this real?" Like I wasn't sure. I'm like, "Is this a joke? Like, what's going on?" But it's very humbling to realize that we're not really alone if we listen right. My story is really not about just the work. It's about love and hope and resilience, believing in what you can't see. Because if I believe what I could see, what I saw told me that, you have 5 grand in the bank, $5,000 in the bank. I did not have $5 million in the bank, 5 million in the bank, like at some point, like I didn't know that. I just thought this is what I see. Money's not coming in. And people kept saying it's coming. And it was getting delayed and we were getting through the year. We got money in dribs and drabs, but we got the funding in, and along with that funding came other monies that came in at the same time. But it was months of like praying and waiting and hoping, and then it all came in. So it taught me a lot about the spirituality of leadership, and it's not all you know being loud and brassy. It's about being a quiet leader sometimes, just doing the work, putting your head down and doing what you promise people you do, even when it's hard. Um, some people ask me if I maybe consider changing the words I used or modifying certain things. I'm like, no. I stand for what I stand for, and I will stand for that till I can stand no more. And I'm so glad that our sponsors finally came around and supported us. And then Melinda Gates Foundation came around and gave us quite a large grant. And out of that grant would come a lot of, recognition and awareness and other support. And so not only did we make this year um, what God wanted for it to be for us, but we're going to make this money multiply. I really believe in like in the Bible, like at some point Christ had like, just some fish and some bread, and he broke the bread and took the water, and he broke the bread and the fish multiplied and the water, it's turned to wine, whatever. Like I really believe in magic, and I believe that when that money went down to like nothing, I only had a few dollars and some, we multiplied the money and with love and hope and empowerment, and now we have dollars and we have dollars and we have love, and I think that love is what you multiply, and with that and the funding, we can do so much more. We will.
Well, I love that story. Congratulations. I mean, it's been amazing to have a front row seat of the journey, and you're getting everything that you deserve, and all the good that you put into the world is really meritorious of that. I do want to be
I, I,
mindful
hope,
of
my, I
time.
hope my
Yeah,
parable came along. Is the
your
parable
parable
correct?
it was close.
I think
I think
I think
you
I
may
kind
have
of mixed it up a little bit.
conflated the loaves and the fishes, and then the turning the water into wine. But it doesn't matter. You're feeding people. You're helping people. I do want to do one more question about Tiger Lily, and then we have some lighthearted questions, and then I'll
Yeah.
let you off the hot seat because I know we both need to run at that point. So let's talk a little bit about Tiger Lily and what you have in store over the next 12 months, and most importantly, how can people get involved? I'm assuming one of the easiest ways is just sending them to tigerlily.com, your website.
Foundation.org. Yeah, Tiger Lily. So it's Tiger, Lily, foundation.org. And you can find us also on Instagram at Tiger Lily _foundation. And I'm at Maimah Karmo on Instagram and on Facebook and on that thing known as X now. Yeah. We have a lot going on where I really want to, again, use the grant money we got to build community. So we're going to be going out there and doing more events in the community, empowering more women to become angel advocates, giving them tools to help them be more health literate and stronger when it comes to their advocacy for themselves. So we're going to create a million more Maimahs that are in their own communities, that know of the community and know how to advocate in those spaces in terms of themselves, their families, their community, their on the local level and nationwide. We'll be doing more of our work in policy space as well. We are training people to become navigators. So we'll have patients who have a lived experience with breast cancer becoming patient navigators, working in healthcare systems to support patients who are newly diagnosed. We are doing work in the clinical trial space. We are doing work in, let's see, science and research as well. We are launching our Bliss Collective brunch series this weekend in New York at Sarah Betts on Park Avenue. We'll be having a series of events throughout the year to help women understand the importance of health as a lifestyle and a culture of living. Um, and we'll be touring the country all year round. So we have a lot of things coming up really about community. I will say that when my dad, when I finished, I think I should finish fourth grade as valedictorian. Was it fourth grade? I don't remember now. But my dad helped me write a speech about home, school, and community. And it's interesting now that my work is about starting your healthcare your healthcare empowerment in the home, take it into schools and community and nationwide. So we're going to be doing just that, empowering people in their homes for themselves and their families. We're partnering with schools and doing a lot of work with universities and young adults. And we're doing work in science, clinical trials, policy, and other arenas as well. And having
Well,
fun during that whole process of, doing all of that stuff.
of course. Well, you're always good with the balancing the work and the love and the fun. And then the really nice thing is I would tell people, because this will drop before the Bliss event this weekend, to go and sign up. But you're actually already at capacity, so they're going to have to sign up for another event
We're sold
somewhere
out.
later in the year. Yes, that's a
Oh,
good problem to
we didn't
have.
share that. We didn't share that I launched my own women's athleisure line called Slim Fit Clothing. So
Well,
like I launched that. So
that's
if you guys want to
fantastic.
get really cool athletic wear, visit slimfitclothing.com.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll put that in the show notes, so it's always helpful to have those plugs. I'm going to do like a couple of rapid fire questions and then we'll wrap up so that we can land on time. And so the first one, I won't make you answer the dirty word that isn't actually dirty, but I do want to know, because I know you've met a lot of really amazing people. We talked about Oprah Winfrey. Who have you met over the course of your journey, other than God and Oprah, that's impressed you the most?
I don't know about impressed. I mean, I met a lot of people, Aaron. I don't even know. I mean, somebody I do love dearly, who I've met and become friends with, is Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I love Debbie so much. She became a friend. I mean, I didn't know who she was. I knew of her, and then we met at an event and became good friends and have done incredible things over the past, 19 years. So she's somebody who I know as a friend. I remember getting an award one time, and I get to the venue, and I go in the back room, and there's Colin Powell, who's getting an award alongside me. That was kind
Kind of
of
a big deal.
interesting,
Yep.
kind
Yep.
of a big deal. I've met Dorothy Height as well. I spoke at an event honoring her, and my daughter sat on her lap during the event for a little bit of time. I've met, I don't know, Mary J. Blige. I just met so many people during this. That's the thing about when you follow your heart and live your life in with joy and with pushing past your fears, everything's possible. And I've traveled the world. I've been on all kinds of networks, and I have friends like yourself who I never thought I'd meet, who are just, you and I met as colleagues, and now we've become great friends. I think that's the best part of my journey. Like, people who are colleagues, then friends, then like family.
Well, I appreciate you mentioning me in the same breath as some of those other folks. And one little side note, I know you and I were talking, I think 2 months ago, and you mentioned Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who happens to be a U.S. representative representing Florida. I was like, you know that she's kind of a big deal, right? You're like, oh, she's just a friend of mine. So I do have one last question for you, and then I'll let you go. Last time we did the podcast, my question for the show was Deserted Island album. I've changed it a little bit now. It's what's an artist or band that you would love to have seen but never had a chance to, and we're going to exempt you from saying Michael Jackson and Thriller, since that was your last answer, although that would be a pretty good one.
I would love to have seen in person. I'm gonna say two, 'cause I never follow the rules. Olivia Newton-John, I love
Mm,
her so
yep,
much,
that's a good one. Yep.
and I love Christopher Cross.
Oh, you know what? I never would have. Those are two artists I never would have thought you would have picked,
See?
Maimah, but I love the fact,
I
especially
surprise
Christopher
you every
Cross.
time.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love him so much, so much. It's my dad's and I's person. It's our song. So like, I really want to see him in concert at some point in time.
So is the song that you have, is it Sailing, or is it Run Like the Wind, or is it
Sailing,
another one? Yeah, they're all
sailing,
amazing. Yeah.
sailing. But all of them, I love him so much. I think is he still alive? Do you know who he is?
I should know this, but I think so.
If I could see him in concert, I'd be like, oh my God, so happy. So that's my bucket list to see him in concert.
Well, if he ever tours, if he is still alive, I have to now check. We'll
Yeah.
make sure we
Tell your
get you
listeners
there.
to get me a ticket.
Exactly. All right. With that, thank you so much, Maimah, for doing this. It's always a pleasure. I appreciate every lovely, amazing thing that you do, and you are the embodiment of good and love and joy and all those things. So keep doing what you're doing. I look forward to our next board meeting, which will be coming up soon, and I hope our
Yeah.
listeners enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you for having me, Aaron. This is wonderful.
Of course.
And thanks to your listeners for having me as well.
I know that they'll appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Okay. All right.